When the first Lymarians fled across the Straits to escape their own kin, they didn't arrive with an army. They landed on the peninsula with little more than a desperate need to survive. Their endurance wasn't built on military strategy, but on a matriarchal lineage tied to the humid earth of the forest. Shrouded in myth, she was known as the Tigress. Legends say she stepped out of the vines to heal the fractured survivors, offering them a sense of bodily autonomy and restorative pleasure that transformed their despair into a collective strength. Her survival strategy was biological. Through a unique exchange of vital energy, she drew strength from her lover's surrender, a process the grandmothers whispered would deepen her beauty and restore her youth with every encounter. This wasn't a passing event, it was the birth of a lineage. This inherited energy fueled the Age of Abundance. In this era, prosperity meant rivers teeming with fish and boughs heavy with fruit. It was a society where disputes melted away in the warmth of shared feasts, held together by oral tradition rather than iron claws. Lymarian women lived at the center of this world, walking with a fearless grace. Their connection to the soil and sea wasn't just a lifestyle, it was the engine of the peninsula's wealth, as they chose their own lovers and governed their own lives. This raises a question. If this era was defined by such tangible success and communal stability, how did it eventually transition into a dystopian world where this matriarchal power was criminalized and hidden away? The shift began with the Wansabong. These Lymarian elites stopped looking to the soil for sustenance and began looking toward the trade winds. They grew wealthy on foreign influence, adopting the clinical logic of the traders they hosted. These elites saw a problem. A populace answering only to their own desires and the natural rhythm of the earth is difficult to control. You cannot effectively tax or command a woman who feels no shame and fears no afterlife. To consolidate their power, the Wansabong decided they had to dismantle the old ways. They set out to extinguish the laughter and the untamed freedom that gave the Lymarian people their independence. Their first tool was literacy, used as a cage. Finally, they built the Jidmas. These monumental stone structures were designed to physically sever the people from the natural world. They were windowless monuments to spiritual authority, casting a literal shadow over the forests they once worshipped. The Age of Abundance withered. Lymarian women, once the architects of their own pleasure, were reduced to subservient ornaments, their hair coiled in wraps, and their voices faded into the silence of the harem. But the Tigress's fire didn't vanish under the stone. It was forced underground, surviving as a cool ash in women who had forgotten their history. The elites believed their ledgers and temples had ended the threat. They were unaware that the ancient catalyst for a rebirth was simply dormant, waiting for enough pressure to ignite. In modern Yalama, we see the result of the suppression in Hazelea Garnie, a disgraced mother caught in a custody battle with the corporate and religious elite. She is the ultimate victim of the Wansabong system. Haz spends her days trying to be invisible, wearing shapeless clothes to hide her body from the judgmental eyes of the city. To the system, she is just a shamed divorcee, prey for the powerful. Desperate to save her children's future, she accepts a dangerous job, acting as Siren bait. She puts on a white silk dress and enters the lair of Jong Rong, an untouchable billionaire, to initiate a high-stakes corporate scheme. The elites see her as a disposable pawn in a white dress, unaware of the ancient genetic trait pulsing in her blood. The pressure of the encounter with Jong Rong triggers something the Wansabong's laws never accounted for. The intense stress causes a biological reaction that overrides her modern conditioning. Generations of suppression are brushed aside as the black flame ignites. This is the ancient elemental wrath of the Tigress, manifesting as dark, smoky magic and glowing veins that trace across her skin. The vulnerable bait has vanished. In her place stands the mythic predator, turning the billionaire's hunger into his own undoing as she begins to draw on his vital energy. But Hazelea's awakening suggests that while a system can bury a lineage, it cannot actually erase the fire in the blood.